I'm making it right now. Turn to the person next to you and say, you're making it. You're making it right now. This is the way you have to speak. This is the way you have to talk. It's not just spewing words out. It has to be in your heart.
Shalom, family. In the name of Yeshua, Jesus Christ. It's your brother, the preacher, and this is Torah Nuggets. Now, this week's Torah portion is Genesis 18:1 through 22:24, and it's called Vayera, and he appeared. We're going to do a little bit of detail from our Unrolling the Scroll book, and this is the fourth reading from the book of Genesis. Remember that the book of Genesis is called Bereshit, in the beginning. And the name of this Torah portion, as we said before, is Vayera, and it means, and he appeared. Because the first story describes how the Lord appeared to Abraham one day as he sat outside his tent. Parashat Vayera continues with a series of tests of faith. And I believe that this is going to be what we're going to be talking about this entire week, as we were coming out of last week and we were talking about Abraham and talking about his attributes and the works that Abraham completed and did, and all of them were done in faith. But his faith continued to be tested through his life, and we're going to really dial down and focus on a lot of those tests, concluding with one great final trial, which everyone knows, the sacrifice of his only begotten son, which gives segue to a whole slew of talks that we can have this week. But as we read, I'd like to read a portion of what we have in this week's reading, and it says, the life of faith is a life of testing. At every juncture we are tested. Passing each test requires stubborn optimism, resolute confidence in God, and steadfast obedience. Life's problems are opportunities to prove our faith and to improve our faithfulness. We fail life's tests when we give in to despair, lose confidence in God, or turn away from obedience. Every difficulty and trial is a test of faith. Will we assess the problem through the eyes of faith or not? Will we respond in faith or faithlessness? Abraham endured many such tests. The apostles remembered him as a man of faith. But what is faith? The writer of the book of Hebrews has an answer for us, and we find that which many people preach from, which is Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1. Now faith is the assurance of things hoped for. It's the substance. And it's the conviction of the things not seen. We sometimes misunderstand the definition as it is meant that faith is simply believing in something. In English, faith is always a noun. It's not something you do. For Abraham, faith is something he did. The Hebrew word translated into English as faith is emunah. Emunah also has a verb form. Faith also implies faithfulness. Abraham was a man of faith in that he believed God's promises, but he also, or was also, a man of faithfulness in that, despite all the adversity and trial, he remained faithful to God. Clement, the disciple of Peter, asked, why was our father Abraham blessed? Was it not because he brought about righteousness and truth through faith? 1 Clement 31:2. Clement sees the performance of righteousness as a natural result of the Abrahamic faith. In other passages, he states Abraham, who is called a friend of God, was found to be faithful because he was obedient to the words of God. 1 Clement 10:1. The writer of the book of Hebrews reminds us that it was by faith Abraham, when he was called, obeyed by going out to a place which he was to receive an inheritance, and he went out not knowing where he was going. Hebrews 11:1. When he arrived in the land, his faith was again tested though God had promised to give the land to Abraham's descendants. Abraham himself lived as a nomad. By faith, he lived as an alien in a land of promise, as in a foreign land, dwelling in tents. Hebrews 11:9. In the previous Torah portion, we learned that Maimonides considered Abraham's journey to Canaan as his first great test of faith. The second test of faith came when he arrived in a land only to face famine. The third test occurred when his wife, Sarah, was abducted in Egypt. The fourth was the war with invading armies. The fifth test was a long wait for the promised son and his marriage to Hagar. The sixth test was the commandment of the circumcision. In this Torah portion, we will follow the story of Abraham through the remaining four tests of faith. The Jewish people are the physical and legal descendants of Abraham. Gentile believers are the spiritual descendants of Abraham. Abraham is the father of us all. Romans 4:16. Together we form the family of Abraham. As children of Abraham, we are to follow the footsteps of faith of our father Abraham. Romans 4:12. Because in those who are of faith are sons of Abraham. Galatians 3:7. And those who are of faith are blessed with Abraham, the believer. Galatians 3:9. This can be compared to a man who had two sons, one natural and one adopted, because they were both raised by the same father and in the same household. They both have behaved like their father, and their lives reflected his values. In this Torah portion, we will learn more about its means to live out both faith and faithfulness of Abraham, our father. And that's my Torah portion or my Torah nugget for today, as we give basically an introduction to this week's Torah portion. But we will come across many trials, many testing of our faith. Will we believe God at his word and all that he says through his word, through his Bible? Will we believe him? Will we say, yes, Lord, I believe you. In all that you have said, I will trust you. Man, this is your brother, the preacher. We love you, family. Support the ministry. $3 John 1:5. We love you. Shalom, shalom.